Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to Government House. My name is Hugh Boreham and I have the honour to be the official secretary to His Excellency the Governor. This is the fourth of 5 COVID-adjusted ceremonies that we're holding in October and November to present Australian honours, most of which were announced on the Queen's birthday this year. The ceremony is also being live streamed on the Government House website and is available for viewing afterwards as well. Could you please ensure your mobile phones are turned to silent? Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for the arrival of His Excellency the Governor and Mrs. Lay, and please remain standing for the playing of the Vice-Regal Salute. Your Excellency, the following appointment to Officer of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been made. Professor Graham Lorimer Mosley is recognised for distinguished service to medical research and science communication, to education, to the study of pain and its management, and to physiotherapy. Professor Mosley is a world leader in the way we think about pain and how to treat it. After posts at Oxford University and the University of Sydney, Professor Mosley was appointed Professor of Clinical Neuroscience and Chair in Physiotherapy at the University of South Australia. He has been a Principal Research Fellow with Neuroscience Research Australia and the National Health and Medical Research Council for many years. Professor Mosley has published over 310 papers, 6 books, and numerous book chapters, and has given presentations in 30 countries. He is a co-founder of TameTheBeast.org, a website which enables people to learn about the nature of pain and start to retrain the body's pain system. Professor Mosley is also chair of Pain Revolution, an organisation which runs pain education programs for health professionals in regional and rural areas. Professor Graham Lorimer Mosley. Your Excellency, the following appointment to Member of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been made. Mrs. Catherine Therese House is recognised for significant service to the community through charitable initiatives. Mrs. House learned from an early age the value of giving back to the local community and supporting vulnerable people. Her commitment was shaped through volunteering alongside her family in the small rural community of Taikawe, 3 hours north of Adelaide. From helping her grandmother to clean up the local church, where she was also an altar server, to organising fundraising events at the age of 12, she was always ready to roll up her sleeves and pitch in. Since then, Mrs. House went on to become a founding board member of the Chinese Language Association and has worked with or supported charitable organisations including Catherine House, the Roger Rashid Sports Foundation, Impact 100 SA, and the Festival Centre Foundation. She is also recognised for her support of a host of other charities and clubs, including the South Australian Health and Medical Research Institute, the Cambodian Children's Trust, Port Adelaide Football Club, and Yalari, a not-for-profit organisation offering education scholarships for Indigenous children from regional, rural and remote communities. Mrs. Catherine Therese House. Your Excellency, the following appointment to Member of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been made. Mr. James Anthony Hutchison is recognised for significant service to amateur radio, particularly to satellite and space communication. Mr. Hutchison's obsession with radio as a 10-year-old turned into a 30-year association with the iconic space agency, NASA. He's been called on to help in times of crisis, to moderate calls between astronauts and their families, and to run a worldwide schools program from a station set up at his Kingston home. In October 1992, he made his first radio contact in space with cosmonaut Anatoly Solovyev on board the Mir space station, and later with our own Andy Thomas. Cosmonaut Alexander Serebrov took part in Mr. Hutchison's first school link-up in 1993. When Mir's days were coming to an end, NASA asked Mr. Hutchison to help form an amateur radio school program for the new International Space Station. Of the thousands of students who have taken part, Mr. Hutchison is delighted that some have gone on to careers in science, engineering, and mathematics. Mr. Hutchison is also recognised for his contribution to the Australia Volunteer Coast Guard Association, Kingston District Council, and Kingston Combined Probers Club. Mr. James Anthony Hutchison. Your Excellency, the following appointment to Member of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been made. Dr. Sarah Louise Jones is recognised for significant service to medical education, to podiatry, and to professional groups. Dr. Jones is dedicated to the advancement of podiatry, in particular preventative care, education, diabetes management, and Aboriginal healthcare. An Associate Professor of Clinical Education in the Department of Rural Health at the University of South Australia, she was inducted into the Podiatry Association Podiatry Hall of Fame in 2013. In the 1990s, Dr. Jones pioneered regular podiatry trips to the APY lands and later included the involvement of University of SA undergraduate students. The team is helping to tackle the side effects of diabetes which affect foot health and can lead to serious complications, which are exacerbated in small and remote communities with no mainstream podiatry services. For almost 30 years, she has also volunteered her services to the Nunkawaran Yunti Clinic in Adelaide. In the justice system, Dr. Jones has assisted criminal investigations across Australia through her expertise in analysing footprints, impressions, footwear, and gait. She is also recognised for her service as an officer in the Australian Army Reserves and to several professional associations. Dr. Sarah Louise Jones. Your Excellency, the following appointment to Member of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been made. Ms. Chris Lloyd is recognised for significant service to the artisan cheesemaking industry, to education, and to tourism. Ms. Lloyd is one of the most respected artisan cheese producers in Australia, her success driven by passion and innovation. After joining the industry by accident, she developed Woodside Cheese Rights into a thriving Adelaide Hills business through her exceptional managerial and cheesemaking skills. Woodside cheeses have won numerous national and international awards, including Super Gold medals at the World Cheese Awards. Equally, Ms. Lloyd's business expertise has resulted in a multitude of accolades, including the South Australian Premier's Food Award for Innovation and Excellence in Small Business, the Zonta Women's Achievement Award, the Telstra Business Women's National Award for Business Innovation, and Adelaide Food Legend Award. Committed to developing the local industry, she established Cheese SA and the Cheese Fest and Ferment festivals, and was the driving force in establishing the Artisan Cheesemaking Academy, Australia. Passionate about the quality and abundance of SA food, Ms. Lloyd has lent her expertise and infectious enthusiasm to many roles, including PIRSA Food and Wine Ambassador, the International Cheesemakers Guild de Fromagère as a member and international judge, and the South Australian Tourism Commission Board. She is also a past columnist for the Adelaide Review. Ms. Chris Lloyd. Your Excellency, the following appointment to Member of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been made. Mr. Kenneth Ian McPherson is recognised for significant service to public administration, particularly through executive legal roles. From career beginnings as a base grade clerk in the Commonwealth Taxation Office in Brisbane, Mr. McPherson rose to become one of South Australia's most powerful and highly respected public servants as Auditor General. Under his 17-year stewardship, the depth and quality of the Auditor General's reporting to Parliament on financial and administrative accountability of government and the public service saw the reports grow from 1 volume to 5 or 6. During the early 1990s, he was responsible as Auditor General for the investigation into the failure of the State Bank. His 4,000-page analysis has been acknowledged by international banking experts as an important contribution to an understanding of the issues associated with 1980s banking practices. In the 1980s, as one of 3 full-time members of the National Companies and Securities Commission, he presided at major investigative hearings associated with corporate and security matters. In 2009, his expertise was sought to head an investigation into the Burnside Council. Mr. McPherson is also recognised for his community work as a former long-time board member and chairman of Baptist Homes for the Aged, now part of Baptist Care South Australia. Mr. Kenneth Ian McPherson. Your Excellency, the following appointment to Member of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been made. Dr. David John Schultz is recognised for significant service to veterinary medicine, to zoological societies, and to philanthropy. Dr. Schultz has dedicated more than 50 years to leadership in veterinary care, conservation, and wildlife research. In 1979, he was awarded a prestigious Churchill Fellowship to study avian medicine and surgery in the United States and the UK. Shortly after, he began working at Zoos SA, eventually becoming the Society's first full-time veterinarian, and was its senior veterinarian for more than 2 decades. After semi-retiring in 2006, he continued for a few years working part-time at Zoos SA and regularly mentored up-and-coming veterinarians. He is a life member of the Australian chapter of the Wildlife Disease Association and has received the Wildlife Disease Association International Emeritus Award in 2015. A natural, engaging and gregarious communicator, he was native wildlife presenter on the Channel 9 Come On Kids series and for ABC Radio. He's the author of more than 60 scientific publications and a sought-after conference presenter. As founding director of the Schultz Foundation, he has supported honours and PhD wildlife and veterinary medicine projects and threatened species conservation. Dr. David John Schultz. Your Excellency, the following appointment to Member of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been made. Mrs. Joan Mabel Stone is recognised for significant service to aged persons through advocacy roles with a range of organisations. Mrs. Stone has been a tireless voice for the elderly and is herself a shining example of active ageing. In her long-term voluntary role on many boards, she has been an advocate for improved treatment and acceptance of older South Australians. A respected spokesperson on retirement village residents' rights and how to get the best out of investing in village life, she was a board member and volunteer for the Seniors Information Service, now the Catalyst Foundation, and a sought-after speaker at its information sessions. Appointed to the Women's Honour Roll in 2009, she has also served as a long-term chair of the Aged Rights Advocacy Service. Her committee and advisory roles include contributing to the Ministerial Advisory Board on Ageing and she's a former president of the Council of Pensioners and Retired Persons Association. A life member of the Council on Ageing South Australia, Retirement Village Association, and South Australian Retirement Villages Residents Association, she is widely known for being able to get things done and for her ability to connect with people to make them feel informed, welcomed, and supported. Mrs. Joan Mabel Stone. Your Excellency, the Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been awarded to the following recipient. Mr. Albert Silvio Aponyi is recognised for service to the visual arts as a sculptor. Mr. Aponyi was born in a refugee camp near Munich in 1949 and came to Australia as a young child with his family. A childhood filled with a vivid imagination and his love of carving his own toy cars, spaceships, and boats led to him becoming an accomplished artist and sculptor and mentor to younger artists. Over his career spanning more than 50 years, he has created some of the nation's most well-known and loved pieces, including the Whale's Tail at Victor Harbour, the Grieving Mother and the Fountain of Tears in Colebrook Blackwood Reconciliation Park, which is a poignant memorial to the Aboriginal children of the stolen generations and their families. As a Balhana resident, Mr. Aponyi and his wife Natalia wanted to bring more artworks to the Adelaide Hills community, which sparked the founding of the Adelaide Hills International Sculpture Symposium and Sculpture Trail. Mr. Aponyi is also recognised for his contribution to the Royal South Australian Society of Arts. Mr. Albert Silvio Aponyi. Your Excellency, the Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been awarded to the following recipient. Mr. Robert Arthur Arnold is recognised for service to the community. Through his long-time contribution to Rotary International, Mr. Arnold has his heart in the local community and the environment. Among his many projects, he and his wife Jan were prime movers in developing and fostering Rotary's commitment to the renewal of the Kalperum Research Station, part of the Riverland Biosphere Reserve. His inspiration and enthusiasm for Rotary to help rehabilitate the seriously overgrazed former sheep station and to protect vulnerable bird and animal species saw it develop into one of the organisation's biggest Australian environmental projects, involving more than 28 clubs across 2 districts. Mr. Arnold is recognised for his contribution to Rotary clubs in Blackwood in South Australia, Balwyn in Victoria, and Western Hutt in New Zealand, as well as his role as Assistant Governor, District 9520. Mr. Robert Arthur Arnold. Your Excellency, the Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been awarded to the following recipient. Mr. Christoph Balsarak is recognised for service to the Polish community. For more than 60 years, Mr. Balsarak has been dedicated to ensuring Polish culture, traditions, patriotism and history thrive throughout the generations. In the 1960s, he was one of 4 founding members of the Federation of Polish Organisations in South Australia, uniting 22 member organisations. To ensure that generations of young people with Polish heritage can connect with their culture, Mr. Balsarak was one of the early members of the Tatry Polish Dance Ensemble, one of the oldest such ensembles in Australia. He was also its administrator for 4 years. He has also served in various leadership roles at the Polish language schools, the Red and White Polish Youth Club, and Polart Visual and Performing Arts Festival. Mr. Balsarak is also recognised for his service as a former member and presenter for Polish radio on 5 EBI Community Radio. Mr. Christoph Balsarak. Your Excellency, the Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been awarded to the following recipient. Sister Margaret Mary Cleary is recognised for service to the Catholic Church of Australia. Sister Margaret has been a member of the Congregation of Sisters of St. Joseph for over 57 years and was professed in 1966. She has a natural passion and talent for education and pastoral care and worked for many years as a primary school teacher. She went on to serve as principal of several schools in Queensland. In 2013, Sister Margaret was elected Regional Leader of the Centre West region of the Sisters of St. Joseph, completing her term in early 2020. She has also served on several boards in Brisbane and Adelaide, in education, aged care, archdiocese development, and for Mary MacKillop International. Sister Margaret is highly regarded for her kind and collaborative nature, in addition to her outstanding leadership skills. Sister Margaret Mary Cleary. Your Excellency, the Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been awarded to the following recipient. Sister Kate Conley is recognised for service to the Catholic Church of Australia and to women. Sister of Mercy, Sister Kate Conley, has spent much of her life working with women living on the edge of society. Widely known and respected for her work with women in prison and after their release, she served as chaplain at the Adelaide Women's Prison for 15 years. Her ministry also involved her working with women at Catherine House, the Centre for Women Experiencing Homelessness. A long-time supporter of Catherine House, she served as a volunteer and board chair in its early years. She is also recognised for her early service as a teacher and a principal at several Catholic country and metropolitan schools, including St. Aloysius, where she began her teaching career. Never afraid to reach out to those in need, Sister Conley is respected as a good listener and a great friend to many. Sister Kate Conley. Your Excellency, the Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been awarded to the following recipient. Miss Nicole Jane Cumston is recognised for service to museums and galleries sector and to Indigenous art. Ms. Cumston is a photographer, painter, curator, writer and educator with a national and international reputation. Adelaide born, she is of Afghan, English, Irish and Barkindji Aboriginal heritage, a descendant of the Darling River people of northwestern New South Wales. After graduating from the University of South Australia, she became a photographic lecturer at the Taondi Aboriginal Community College at Port Adelaide, as well as at the University of South Australia. Ms. Cumston wrote and delivered inaugural courses in Indigenous art, culture and design at the South Australian School of Art, now part of UniSA, before becoming the first Indigenous curator at the Art Gallery of South Australia. She is the artistic director of its flagship program, the Tanandi Festival of Contemporary Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Art. Her work is held in many collections, including the National Gallery of Australia, the National Gallery of Victoria, Parliament House Canberra, the Adelaide Festival Centre Foundation, the Adelaide Club, and the Macquarie Group Collection. Miss Nicole Jane Cumston. Your Excellency, the Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been awarded to the following recipient. Mr. Robert Nicholas Korotkov is recognised for service to the community. Mr. Korotkov has been a dedicated member of Lions clubs for over 50 years. After joining clubs in Cairns and Townsville for a short period, he moved to Adelaide's southern suburbs, where he became a stalwart in the local Lions community. Mr. Korotkov has been president of the Lions clubs of Brighton and Marion. He was a Lions insurance program consultant for over 40 years and was sergeant at arms at 10 national conventions. Mr. Korotkov's leadership skills, as well as his caring and generous nature, have served him well in a range of other volunteer activities. These include a period as president of the St Vincent de Paul Brighton branch, treasurer for the Brighton Community Citizens Club, and as an emergency carer for dogs with the Royal Society for the Blind. Mr. Robert Nicholas Korotkov.
Your Excellency, the Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been awarded to the following recipient. Professor Adrian Matthew Lineker is recognised for service to forensic science. In the 1990s, DNA profiling was the new and rising star of forensic science. The burgeoning technology caught the eye of Professor Lineker, a senior lecturer at Strathclyde University in Scotland. Fascinated by its potential, he dedicated himself to learning all he could about the field. In 2010, this led to a job offer on the other side of the world as inaugural chair in forensic DNA technology at Flinders University. Professor Lineker is known for his ability to get more from less at a crime scene. He has developed more sensitive methods of human DNA typing and has increased our understanding of how biological material is transferred at crime scenes. Professor Lineker has also worked extensively with non-human DNA, developing technologies used to prosecute wildlife poachers and to save animals from extinction. Professor Adrian Matthew Lineker.
Your Excellency, the Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been awarded to the following recipient. Mr. Daryl John Pope is recognised for service to surf life saving and to music education. Blessed with being both musical and athletic, Mr. Pope has dedicated his life to pursuing both of his talents as a music teacher and as a surf lifesaver. Recently retired, Mr. Pope is a former head of music at both Wilderness and Pembroke schools. He is currently president of the Australian Band and Orchestra Directors Association, where he founded the South Australian School Band and Orchestra Festival. Since his early days as a volunteer at the Seacliff Surf Lifesaving Club in the 1960s, Mr. Pope has undertaken a range of leadership roles at Surf Lifesaving South Australia. These included chair of the Awards and Recognition Panel, Chief Carnival Referee, Competition Director, and more. He has also worked extensively with Surf Lifesaving Australia. Mr. Daryl John Pope. Your Excellency, the Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been awarded to the following recipient. Mrs. Neapaya Kaka Burton is recognised for service to Indigenous visual art and to the community. Mrs. Burton was born in Ernabella and as a young woman worked there as a teacher, a position she held for over 15 years. She has devoted the latter part of her career to representing the Anangu people and working to create a better future for the next generation. Mrs. Burton was a driving force behind the creation of the APY Arts Centre Collective, a group of 10 Indigenous-owned and governed enterprises located on APY lands. She has also worked as a director of Amata Council, a director for NPY Women's Council, and as a long-standing director of Chala Arts. As a practicing artist, Mrs. Burton has received industry recognition for her woven sculptural works and installation pieces, many of which have been acquired by institutions and museums in Australia and abroad. Mrs. Neapaya Kaka Burton. Your Excellency, the Medal of the Order of Australia in the General Division has been awarded to the following recipient. Mr. Vincent Namajira is recognised for service to Indigenous visual art and to the community. This year, Mr. Namajira made history as the first Indigenous artist to win the Archibald Prize, Australia's preeminent prize for portraiture, first time in the award's 99-year history. Mr. Namajira's work has gained significant recognition in Australia and abroad for its signature style, its exploration of our nation's colonial history, and its inclusion of famous contemporary figures. His more recent work also charts his personal history and his investigatory search for identity. Mr. Namajira's art has been shown in major exhibitions around the world, as well as local festivals such as Tanandi. His work is held in major galleries around Australia, as well as the British Museum. Mr. Namajira is an artist and director with the Iwanja Arts, a corporation owned and managed by Aboriginal people in the APY lands, which provides opportunity, training and career development for practicing artists. Mr. Vincent Namajira. The late Mr. Mumu Mike Williams.